back to this channel. Happy Monday. I hope you all had a great day today, but I hope you had an even better weekend. My name is Mandy Magnan. I'm an actress, writer, producer, and director in Toronto, a movie reviewer, and a YouTube commentator on everything it ends with never. So of course we're going to get into it. Bryan Freeman holding TMZ and mainstream media accountable. Then I just want to go and dive into what my Roman Empire is. I have two of them in the case, one obviously being Van Zandt, but the other is this freaking birthing scene. So I think I know kind of what happened a little bit on the set. I've revisited all of the complaints and I'm going to bring you the information because I truly think that Blake Lively is really jealous of the wives, the Wayfarer wives. I'm just going to put it out there, okay? And then also, yeah, speaking of mainstream media, they got some things right today, and we're going to talk about that as well. So if you're ready, I'm ready. Grab your emotional support lip gloss. You are in frame with Mandy Magnan. Oh! Okay, that's the kind of day I'm having. You ever just have a day where it's like every single thing is just not going your way? So crazy because for the last 2 weeks I felt like I was on fire. Last week I was on the top of my game. I just had like the best time. And then today I woke up, I had some auditions to do. I just felt so bloated. I did not feel like I wanted to be on camera. I was just like looking at myself like, who is this monster? You know, like who is this hideous woman? What's going on? Everything I touch seems to be broken, like my microphone. The cords weren't working. Now I can't charge my phone because it's saying there's water in it. I just went to go grab my headphones and like, what's going on? So it's just one of those days. I feel like, you know, my lady time is on the way, and yay, welcome to periods. Welcome to a woman's 28-day cycle where 2 weeks is you're on top of the world, and then there's a week where you just feel like everything is awful. But anyway, I'm going to try to fix this so that we can all go into Daddy Freeman. I'll be right back. You know what I need? Lip gloss, because what in the heck is going on today? I don't know, okay? And on top of that, it's been snowing for 2 days. It's supposed to continue snowing tonight, so it's just like a winter wonderland out there. Anyway, this is really great lip gloss, but also hydration. I mean, look at the color it gives, but also it is great for hydration, and it gives a little bit of glow. It's called the Gloss and Glow, and it's from Burt's Bees. A must. I also have the lighter pink one, which doesn't give that much more color, but it's really cute. Anyway, last week, if y'all follow this channel, I was calling on mainstream media almost daily for the BS that they were printing. I mean, it was just absolutely absurd. And you know it's so absurd when you even have now Bryan Freeman coming out being like, guys, you got it wrong. What's going on? So I'm sure everyone now has watched clips and bits and pieces of the interview with Bryan Freeman. But I just want to go over a couple of things that I thought were like the coolest and most important. I love how he clocked TMZ, like, y'all printed the story. Hello. But it doesn't look like they are going to be settling anytime soon. I know there were some people talking about, oh, it seems like there might be settling. There's talks happening in the background. It would never benefit Wayfarer at this point to settle. They have everything to lose. And at this point, I feel like their evidence and their facts are definitely behind them versus Blake Lively. So let's just look at what I thought was like some of the coolest moments from our daddy, Bryan Freeman. First, let's just look at the missing deadline. Now, y'all, don't follow the main, I mean, you do whatever you got to do. But when it comes to this case, the mainstream media continues to get it wrong. Come to the people who are really following the case, because I told y'all last week there is no deadlines missed. At this point, final judgment wasn't in, and the judge even said they're waiting to see about Blake's all these sanctions and motions for treble fees and attorney damages and stuff before there is even a clock running on the appeal, right? So this is Bryan Freedman in his own words talking about the missed deadline.
Before anyone can file an appeal, there needs to be a final judgment. In order for there to be a final judgment, the judge has
Just say this involves the dismissal of Justin Baldoni's countersuit.
Sure. There were no deadlines that were missed. We're always glad when that doesn't happen. I'm not really sure.
Yes, so is the malpractice insurer usually.
Exactly. And I'm not sure how anybody even thought that a deadline would be missed. Before anyone can file an appeal, there needs to be a final judgment. In order for there to be a final judgment, the judge has to actually issue a final judgment. And then there's a certain amount of days that you have after that to go ahead and file a document called a notice of appeal. In this case, the judge actually didn't issue a final judgment until just a few days ago, but also reserved that final judgment from being really appealable until after the judge rules on the attorney's fees motion. So there's going to be some time until you could even possibly file a notice of appeal. And people talk all the time about, well, why didn't they amend again? Why didn't they file a new complaint or an amended complaint? And if you're familiar with standards of appeal, sometimes you don't do that because you have a better chance of winning on appeal based on a dismissal of the first complaint rather than a subsequent complaint that you might amend.
Which is so true. So there was no deadlines missed. There you go. You have it in black and white. Bryan Freedman himself already saying it. Now, they are talking about how Justin Baldoni is winning the TikTok war. And this is what Bryan Freedman had to say about that.
I wanted to talk to you about this. So your client is definitely winning the TikTok war. And I don't say that lightly because that's a really important war because that's his audience. And those are the people that are going to go to the movies and that are going to watch his stuff and watch her stuff. And he's winning that war. Even with the dismissal and everything else, he's winning the TikTok war. But legally, if this thing goes to trial, I mean, it just feels like you're going to watch the rubble bounce on both sides because, she'll make claims, he'll make claims. It's going to be he said, she said. And, it doesn't feel as clean as Johnny and Amber where he ended up.
Pump the brakes. First of all, it's not he said, she said. There is clear evidence of Blake Lively extorting these people, hijacking the movie, taking over the director role, taking over the edit, all of these demands that she made, how the other production team was texting Jamie and Justin, complaining about it. There's clear evidence about that. It's not he said, she said. There is dozens and dozens and dozens of people on set at all times. There is always going to be way more people on set. And to always refer this back to Amber and Johnny is so crazy because even that case wasn't clear cut. It wasn't like, and it's not even the same. They were together. This is not even close to Johnny Depp and Amber Heard. So to keep referring it to that, I think it's just so gross, honestly.
That decisive victory just feels like this case, my gut has been telling me, and I feel like maybe I'm wrong now, that this is just not going to go to trial because it's in nobody's interest. It's going to settle somehow.
I think that people have been saying that for a long time now, and I think when you have a case that involves the issues this case involves, sometimes the only way to resolve it is trial. I see that look, people are really dug into this case, and rightfully so. And I think it's an important case for everyone. It's an important case, frankly, for society in an unusual way. But I think the case does go to trial. I think the case has to go to trial. I think that it has to go to verdict. I think that from Justin Baldoni's standpoint, who, by the way, I've now known him for almost a year. Incredible man, incredible. Not like a good person, an incredible man, truly. And I just think that that he has to go to trial and let a jury of his peers decide, do these facts rise to the level of sexual harassment? Was there a smear campaign that he participated in? Those kinds of things. And to clarify, like, smear campaign, there's not really a cause of action, right?
It was
The smear campaign, first of all, was led by Blake Lively's team. That's already been proven without even going to court. And yeah, the are they rewriting laws now for the smear campaign is basically what he's saying. I mean, it's been like we've debunked it without even going to court. So I don't think the jury is going to have a hard time either.
gonna say smear campaign is
Well, it's sort of
kind
defamation. I mean, it really it boils down to, if somebody is telling the truth about somebody, there's not really a cause of action. It's a smear based on false facts, it seems.
well,
Yeah, you'd have to narrowly get into the issues of those things. You'd also narrowly have to get into the issues of retaliation, right? And was there retaliation, and what was the retaliation, and what was the temporal proximity and things like that give rise to it. But look, I just think that this, who you are can truly come out in a trial, and Justin is a fantastic person. And I think that people will be able to see and hear him for the first time in a year.
You took Blake's
By-
deposition, right?
So they do go into the deposition. He did take it, Bryan Freedman, which we knew. However, he does say he's not allowed to talk about that, which is a shame. But obviously, we don't need Blake Lively and her people making statements, which I'm sure will come in the next 24 to 48 hours, how he's on this podcast and it's furthering the smear campaign, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Some of the most difficult parts, I think, about hearing about the case in the media has been mainstream media and how mainstream media has treated the case. And if you look at it and you really kind of zero in on it, there are a lot of reasons why mainstream media has taken this case and twisted the words and misrepresented what's really been going on in the case. And it's done that in part because there are, big time, powerful, important relationships with certain people and certain media, that's owned by, very few people in this town. And that's why when you talk about the TikTok people, they're not really my people. They're your people. They're everyone's people. They're the people, right? They're the jurors.
and by the way, you just hit exactly what I was going to say.
Perfect example. The people cannot be controlled anymore. We speak, we have a right to speak, we can share our own opinions, whereas legacy and mainstream media, and I've done so many deep dives, especially the ties to WME and Ari Emanuel, the Hollywood Reporter. If you haven't seen these videos, they're somewhere in the long list there. But there is a lot of connections with the people running the stories who are so pro Blake in this, and it all filters into WME and Ari Emanuel's pocket.
Untrue and said it. You saw it on TMZ. They said that deadlines were blown, and Justin has walked away from the appeal. He's walked away from his case. He's fine with the fact that the case was dismissed. That was on TMZ.
Yeah,
that was not true.
We messed that up. I agree with you. But that wasn't. Look, we're not going to say something that we know is not true because it's ultimately going to get corrected. We messed that up.
Well, you're definitely not going to say that you knew that it was untrue and said it. That's for sure.
There's Bryan. There's Bryan. There is defining malice.
Bryan, I will say this: we corrected it, right? There's no. It doesn't serve us to put a story up that we end up correcting. We screwed that up. And I just agree with you. I agree.
You may have screwed it up actually, because what you may have done is you may have read Deadline.
No.
Which by the way,
if you want to talk about us, I felt he's been winning this all along. I mean, we talked about that as early as today, that, personally, and I've talked about this on television. We've done stories on this on the website. I feel like Justin Baldoni is winning this. I think this really has hurt not just Blake Lively, but it's also hurt Ryan Reynolds. And
yes, it's definitely hurt both of them, but very interesting that once he gets called out, like earlier in the interview, he was just saying, oh, if they go to court, it seems like both the parties, and now he's like, Justin's gonna win this after being called out. Interesting. But like I said last week, in all of the videos that I did last week, mainstream media, legacy media, it seemed like one person just printed a story and it got completely regurgitated over and over and over. It was like the exact same headings, the exact same story, that Justin Baldoni loses, the case is over, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
And so, case that have come out.
And I think that when we talk about, Harvey, and what's the jury verdict going to be? That's what matters. It's really ultimately what matters to Justin Baldoni as to whether he's going to be able to work again. It matters, as to Jamie Heath. It matters, as to Melissa Nathan. It matters as to Jen Abel. It matters as to all of the people that have been sued in the case. And I think that when we talk about, Harvey, in 6 months from now, we won't talk about lumps, or we won't talk about who's winning or who's losing. We'll have a verdict.
It's been funny to me that each side has been saying we're clean, the other side isn't. Both sides have been doing this stuff. And I know it because I've been the recipient of those phone calls, among other people in my office. And what occurred to me today when I read that Blake Lively was saying she's incurred $161 million in damages because of a smear campaign, that there's a principle in the law called unclean hands, that if you claim somebody else did you dirty, but you did them dirty the same way, a pox on both their houses. And I wondered that could this case just end up where the jury just says, I don't want to hear from either of you guys. You both were doing that. Case to, you end up getting the verdict because.
Did Harvey just say that Blake's team was also doing the same thing? Interesting.
The jury just doesn't want to give money to anybody because both people were playing the game.
Yeah, I'm not sure how that relates to this case. I can talk generally as I understand what a publicist does, right? I think publicists call, reporters and news outlets all the time to make sure that a story is correct or to make sure that their client's side of the story is heard. I mean, I think that's kind of normal operating procedure. I think it's rarely the case where a publicist would call up and say something that was completely untrue.
Oh my God!
But even more rare, right? Even more rare, Harvey, would be when a publicist would call up something that was completely untrue, and the reporter would say, "Okay, great. Let me write that down and let me just put that on the air right away." I mean, every single news outlet that I know does their own homework, does their own research in any situation. I don't think that trust, while it's an important factor, it's not.
Wow, Harvey's face is so telling here. So telling that they don't do their own research, they don't do their own homework, and that they put out things that are not true. His face says it all.
It's not the level or the duty or the line in which you draw. You would go around, you'd make calls and make sure that things are correct of whatever you're hearing. And I don't mean that specifically to the Baldoni case at all. I just mean it to any story. Something pops up, you call up, you ask a question, and then you verify what that information is so you make sure you get it right.
Okay, so now you want to know the way it really works?
Sure.
They spin more than a dreidel, number one. That they are not just giving you facts. They are calling you with a spin that they want to put on for their client, and they feel that's their job. So we get this. I've got literally thousands of calls from most every publicist. And every publicist can take a set of facts and shade it or change it. And they do it all the time. And what
Since
they
you-
do,
since you know that, though-
let me just give you this. And
Sure.
what they'll do cleverly is they'll say, we have sources directly connected to, and they and listen, we've gotten things where we wouldn't put it up.
I said that, y'all, that every time Blake Lively puts something in with Leslie Sloan, what does it say? Sources close to. Sources close to. I've been saying this so that it can't go back directly on Leslie. But then when Brian Friedman was talking to the press this whole time, it could track back because it was Brian Friedman who was saying it, and now Blake Lively has someone to blame. But for Blake Lively, it's always sources close to. Careful on those sources. It's always PR. There's a lot of good points that were made there, like Harvey saying, you know, the reason why they just put this stuff out is because they're looking for content. Brian Freeman said there should be a way to redact it when you guys make mistakes, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It was a really good interview, and I'm really happy that the Wayfarer finally came out and said something and set the record straight, because us YouTubers have been saying it all week. You know, all of last week we were like, oh my gosh, how can mainstream media get it so wrong? Speaking of mainstream media, let's go back to a little video I did last week real quick. But here are some new headlines that maybe you can use tomorrow and or for the rest of the week. We'll start with a really good one, an easy one for you, since I know how y'all love to use Taylor Swift in anything. Blake Lively drags Taylor Swift back into It Ends With Us lawsuit after unsealed documents are released. It's her amended initial disclosure, which she still has Taylor Swift in as knowing information, which is crazy, right? Because Taylor Swift come out like many times and has told us that she has zero knowledge of anything. This is Blake Lively's second initial disclosure, re-amended. Yeah, still has Taylor Swift among many other people, big names. It's a read-through. You guys would get a lot of clicks off some of the titles that you can use from the people in this document. It's almost like they were listening. Now we have biggest celebrities named in Blake Lively's It Ends With Us. Blake Lively names Taylor Swift, Hugh Jackman, Gigi Hadid. It ends in the red. Blake Lively names Taylor Swift, Hugh Jackman, WME. Wow, only took y'all like a week to catch up. Now there are stories coming out in, again, mainstream media of other producers and people in Hollywood kind of saying that Blake Lively's, what she's asking for in damages, that they're like, oh, she thinks she's like the Beyonce of movies and it's kind of crazy and stuff. But again, those are just coming from sources. No one's actually named. So who knows, again, if these are fabricated stories or if they actually had sources. Because again, if no one's willing to actually say who they're talking to, it could all just be made up. Now I quickly just want to talk about just something that was bothering me all weekend, again, about this frickin' birthing scene, y'all. But then it really dinged me and occurred to me that I think Blake Lively is used of love bombing people, men wooing over her. I mean, I've said that for a long time. And she grew a really strong connection with Justin Baldoni, and therefore, when he opposed her in any way, she took it personally as Blake Lively and not as Lily Bloom, the director to actor. I fully believe that she tried to love bomb him as well. It's so apparent through the text messages that she was sending, and then he would respond with, ew, I've just cried my eyes out, my family's gone, you know, always returning it back to his family. Even during the dance montage scenes that we see, he always brings it back to his wife. And I think Blake Lively was extremely jealous of Natasha Heath and Emily Baldoni. I think, first of all, she was extremely jealous from the love and the supportive husbands that they have, being Jamie Heath and Justin Baldoni. I think that she probably really wants love like that, because her husband, Ryan Reynolds, is begging Justin Baldoni, the director of the film, to change the film dates to match Blake Lively and his schedule, while Jamie Heath is on set talking to Jenny the Man-Beater Slate about the sanctity of motherhood. And also they gifted Blake Lively the things for like breastfeeding and stuff. I think that she really, really, really is spiteful and jealous of the relationship that they have with their wives. And I think I found just a little something, you know, because the way it was all characterized to me obviously felt really strange. In the birthing scene, Blake Lively said that they were begging her to be nude. Let's just look at it, because I think I know the exact shot that they were aiming for. First, I just want to say it's kind of strange in her complaint that she writes, such safeguards ignored by Wayfarer include providing performers with appropriate notice of nudity and simulated sex scenes and ensuring consent is given free of pressure or corrosion. And then 2 signed nudity writers. But she already had her contracted nudity writer way before camera. She was the one that refused to sign it. And there's emails between Wayfarer and her lawyers asking for this signed nudity writer. So the fact that then she would go and use it as Wayfarer filming without it, when she was the one that refused to sign it, like, y'all, it should tell you everything you need to know. But I want to talk about this part. Without these protections in place, Mr. Baldoni improvised physical intimacy that had not been rehearsed, choreographed, or discussed with Ms. Lively, with no intimacy coordinator involved. For instance, Mr. Baldoni discreetly bit and sucked on Ms. Lively's lower lip during a scene in which he improvised numerous kisses on each take. Mr. Baldoni insisted on shooting the full scene over and over again, well beyond what would have been required on an ordinary set, and without advance notice or consent. Okay. But then when they come back, the Wayfarer people come back and say, well, actually, we have it on camera that Blake Lively was improvising scenes Blake Lively was improvising kisses every single time. Blake Lively's response to that is like, oh, well, if it's in the script, then yeah, you know, she can do whatever she wants. And it's like, what? But when you come down to the birthing scene, it also says here, like, it just disturbs me the way that they worded things to make it sound as grotesque as possible. Mr. Baldoni inserted improvised gratuitous sexual content and or scenes involving nudity into the film, including for an underage character, in highly unsettling ways. But, like, it's not an underage actor, first of all. And why is it unsettling? You weren't doing it, Blake. What does this have to do with you? Like, it's just so bizarre. On the day of shooting the scene in which Miss Lively's character gives birth, Mr. Baldoni and Mr. Heath suddenly pressured Miss Lively to simulate full nudity. Simulate. Not do full nudity. Simulate full nudity. Despite no mention of nudity for this scene in the script, her contract, or in previous creative discussions, Mr. Baldoni insisted to Miss Lively that women give birth naked and that his wife had ripped her clothes off during labor. He claimed it was not normal for women to remain in their hospital gowns while giving birth. Miss Lively disagreed but felt forced into a compromise that she would be naked from below the chest down. You're giving birth. What did you think what you were just going to be fully cut? Like, you know, your legs were going to have to show. But the fact that she wrote simulated full nudity. So they never pressured her to be nude. It was simulated. And you can do that so many different ways, like how they did. They had her in black briefs. They had the little piece of fabric. They had the belly there. Hello? And then she says when the birth scene was filmed, the set was chaotic, crowded, and utterly lacking in standard industry protections for filming nude scenes. But again, she wasn't nude. And at the bottom in her footnote, which is something I will always go back to because it's in her own footnote, generally, nudity below the waist in film utilizes a small piece of nude fabric glued around the female's actor's genitalia to provide some minimal privacy without disturbing the shot, because that fabric is not able to have visible straps from profile camera angles, which is what she had during some of the shots. So, like, if it's good for most actors, but it's not good for you, okay? Anyway, so this is what she's saying. Now, what I think, first of all, you're in a birthing scene. So, of course, there's going to have to be some legs shown, thighs shown. I mean, pushing out the baby. I mean, all of this stuff. The shot that I think they wanted, which was the simulated sex scene, and I've been thinking about it because what does that have to do with Jamie Heath's home birth video? And I think it's the first time the baby has skin-to-skin contact with the mother. I almost can guarantee that was the creative discussion, because that's what happens, right? After you give birth, and then they check the baby out, and then that's the first contact you have. So I think what they wanted to do was probably cover her in pasties. They probably weren't ever going to show her breasts or anything. It was going to be covered, but it was simulated nudity, and the baby would be on her chest for the first skin-to-skin contact, like what happens in most births. That's what I truly think happened, because when you look back to Jamie Heath's home birthing video, this is the opening shot. This is this video that's on his Instagram, the video I shared with you earlier. This is it. And it starts with the baby on the mother skin to skin for the first time. And I think that's what the shot that they wanted with Blake Lively, but she considered that nudity, which is like you're covered with the baby. Do you know what I mean? And there's so many ways to shoot it and go around it that they would never have shown like her, breastises. And I think that is truly the creative discussion that was happening. They wanted that one shot of skin to skin with the baby. And she was refusing or didn't understand the creative discussion. And that's kind of strange too, because it's like you gave birth 4 times and you don't understand that they want, the baby on the chest. Like, did you not do that? Like, you didn't have your first skin to skin touch after the baby was born after 4 of them? That's weird. But even in her own complaint, she doesn't say they pressured her into nudity. They wanted her to be nude. It was simulated. So really, when you start rereading and rereading this and like really diving into the wording, it's like, what? Oh, okay. So a lot of people were out here thinking that they were pressuring her to be pornographic and they were pressuring her to be naked and doing all, but it wasn't. It was simulated, which means you're not. It just shows that you are. There's simulated sex scenes, simulated kissing, right? It doesn't mean you're actually doing it. It's fake. It's just camera. It's the magic of movie making. Now I want to go on to why I think she is jealous of the wives. I mean, obviously her relationship, Blake Lively's relationship with Ryan Reynolds, I've done so many deep dives on it. He has publicly embarrassed her, shamed her, insulted her. I mean, for 10 years in a row on her birthday, he would pin her friends against her. Like, it was just every chance he got, he insulted Blake. And I think that became kind of like her armor, being like a boy's boy and a chummy and like an over-sexualized, love-bombing, flirtatious kind of woman. And when men don't fall for it, she gets in her feelings and becomes highly insecure, and she was already in postpartum and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But why I think that she has an issue with the wives, first of all, for Jenny the man-beater Slate to go and make an HR report because they offered her thousands of dollars for her to move with her toddler, but because he was talking so highly about the sanctity of motherhood, to me is alarming. Okay, that's just like cuckoo bananas. Like, and for Blake to use that in her CRT complaint, but not exactly say why, right? Like, Blake wasn't the one that came. She just said other people have reported behavior. The sanctity of motherhood. But this is why I think, because she has an issue with them, because she definitely threw Natasha Heath under the bus in her first CRD complaint. And it wasn't something I initially clocked at first, but now I'm like, yo, you've been mad at these girls for way too long, Blake Lively, and something is underneath of that. Because why would you say this now in your CRD complaint when it has nothing to do with sexual harassment? Ew. On the first day of production, Mr. Baldoni and Mr. Heath described their past sexual relationships to Miss Lively, including that one of them used to hook up with a woman. Mr. Baldoni said that he had decided the woman wasn't the one, so that Mr. Heath had gotten together with her. Miss Lively found this description of passing along a woman to be disrespectful and disturbing. That's wild to say, because this is a little snippet from the Man Enough podcast where Natasha Heath herself is talking about meeting Jamie Heath.
And I think also it just causes your nervous system to just like be like zinged constantly or quickly zinged. And just learning how to self-manage, whether it's in the moment or instantly or constantly. Like, I think that's really important for me to work on, for all parents to work on, is like, how do you self-manage and get what you need, which is like, maybe I just need 5 minutes.
Yes.
Just give me 5 minutes.
Sadly, we'll have to see Liz Plank in this video. I'm so sorry to do that. But Natasha is such an amazing woman, and we'll get into the business that she runs, but she's doing a lot of work for mothers. And if you've watched any of Blake Lively's interviews on being a mother and how she feels about it, they could not be more opposite on the spectrum of motherhood. I mean, Blake Lively hated being pregnant. That's a fact. Show me an interview where she loved being pregnant whenever an interviewer mentioned anything. And she would throw women under the bus all the time, pregnant women under the bus all the time.
She was dancing, salsa dancing, professional dancer. He then was like captivated by her person. They ended up talking. It wasn't a hit on. They went out to coffee. And then Justin basically, instead of saying, hey, what's your number? Let's hang out. It was more like, hey, I've got a group of people that are getting together talking about elevated concepts, spirituality, how to be better, how to serve humanity. There's a group of women that are talking about this kind of thing. Would you be interested in like, and she was like, whoa, who are you? Like, you're not trying to like, what are you? Then she started coming around, and then she and I met shortly after. I like to tell.
That's the story that Blake Lively is trying to twist about and throw shade on Natasha Heath, that she was just passed around between these male friends. Ew.
Story that she hit on me, but she didn't. That she cornered me and was like, please take me out, take me out, take me out. And I was
please.
That didn't happen. Fast forward, we're becoming friends. We're doing these exercises where you kind of like look in each other's eyes for like as long as you can without blinking and like whatever that stuff. And we are partnered up to do this. And in that moment, she likes to say that she saw me fall in love with her.
For real. No. I saw it.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my God.
But I could see that we had a thing, that there was something. And I literally thought to myself, oh shit, there's something here. So I sat her down. I was like,
This is the cutest thing.
think there's something going. I think there's some potential. We're noticing each other. So I got to tell you who I am. I've been married twice and divorced, which she knew just because we'd been friends and like on the surface knew, but been married twice, divorced.
He goes into his story and stuff. And Jamie Heath's story, I mean, he's taken accountability for being not such a good man in his past, and having adultery and learning from his mistakes and growing, and he openly speaks about that and takes accountability at every step of his life. So I just think it's so gross for Blake Lively yet again to weaponize this on them and weaponize the way they met. And if you want to see this episode, it's really good. It's called Motherhood, Postpartum, Intimacy, and Supportive Husbands with Natasha Heath. And I think the supportive husband thing is where Blake Lively probably crashed out. In the Wayfarer original complaint or counter complaint, they worded it perfectly. I mean, the whole thing with Jamie Heath coming into her trailer when Blake Lively said that she was nude, he's saying that she was just having makeup taken off of her collarbone, and many people around, including her makeup artist and assistants, and she asked him to turn around, and I guess he made eye contact with her, and then she said that made her feel uncomfortable, and he was like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry, I really didn't realize. And she was like, I know you weren't trying to cop a look. And they just like moved on to then use something so small like that when I guess Blake Lively was known for breastfeeding in front of everyone is like, okay. Anyway, I digress. This is perfectly said about Wayfarer and how they feel about their wives. Lively's suggestion that not one but two professional and conscientious men barged into her trailer several times or attempted to enter or pressured her to allow them to enter offends not only their long-established integrity, but the sanctity of their vows to their wives and their dedication to their children and family. Lively is aware that both men are incredibly supportive and respectful of motherhood, to say the least. Heath's wife is a vocal advocate for postpartum mothers. Baldoni's wife co-founded a company that designed a breastfeeding garment, a prototype that originated with his mother when he was an infant. Baldoni had gifted Lively one. While those facts would never be an excuse for barging in unannounced, it is indicative of the nature of their relationship with respect for women. Simply put, these allegations are categorically false that would have been wildly out of character if they were true. And we also have to remember that Emily Baldoni was on the set. She was cast in the movie as one of the doctors as well. So I really think that she had it out for these women since day one. I mean, in her original CRD complaint, to literally throw Natasha Heath some shade like that, saying that she was just like passed around between Justin and Jamie when they were sharing the story about how he met his wife, to me is so gross. Then to say that her birthing video is pornography and it was her legs spread open and all of this, I mean, it just shows me that I think that she really resents these women and is jealous of these women because they're loved, they're supportive, their careers thrive on helping other women, their products help other women, while Blake Lively is using her sexuality in order to hawk alcohol and hair care lines. And it just seems like her career is a little bit more shallow than the depths of these people, these other women, and their relationships with their husbands. And again, I stand by the fact that he would only show that video. It was a creative discussion. And I think because of the opening scene of the video is the baby crying, the first baby cry where the mother is holding the baby skin to skin. And I think that's what they wanted to achieve. But Blake Lively completely blew it up, saying that they were trying to force her to be nude, even though now looking at her CRD complaint, it was simulated nudity. So it wasn't even like they were begging her to be nude. It was like all you had to do was say, okay, I'll do it, but I would like an extreme close-up from here to here. You know, there's just so many ways to shoot around it that it's, and she should know this, and it's absolutely absurd. And the bullying continues with now trying to force the court to give Blake Lively all video footage of Natasha Heath's very private, intimate home birth. I mean, and it's like they have multiple children now, so it doesn't even indicate whether it's just one child, all child, you just want all footage. Why? Why do you want that? At the end of the day, it literally doesn't prove either way, right? Like, it doesn't prove what you saw. You just have to say what you think you saw and allow the jury to decide on their own, which I don't think will ever look good for Blake Lively. And for someone who tried really hard to take over the franchise of It Ends With Us, as well as had a responsibility to be Lily Bloom, to not read the book, and it literally says here that she did not read the book. While I understand Blake's reasons for not wanting to read the book does a very good job in getting in Lily's mind during her interactions with Ryle. So maybe if Blake Lively had read the book, we wouldn't be here today, because the flicking of the chin, the little things he does, is Ryle in character, babes. Okay, so get it together. And just while I reread all of these over the weekend, which is now probably like the 6th or 7th time I read them, but I keep finding just new little tidbits because of the information that we keep receiving, and it's ongoing. It does say here, it's very interesting that they got really close, y'all, and there's actually gonna be proof and evidence that, you know, he was rehearsing at her house. They rehearsed little spicy scenes with no intimacy coordinator, and it says their working relationship grew close. Baldoni and Lively shared stories and pictures from their lives, commiserated over family illnesses, and exchanged jokes and memes. Baldoni offered concern and support when Lively faced family health concerns. They texted almost daily, and a friendly banter established a comfortable dynamic that under typical circumstances would have made working together easy. And not to rehash everything, but there's just a couple of good points, like especially ignoring the director's vision. As soon as Blake Lively got on board, she started berating the wardrobe people with like hundreds of images of how she thought Lily should be done. She went over the budget by over $500,000. They had to redesign all of Lily's wardrobe. She wouldn't even go down to the wardrobe place, had them go to her apartment. If you guys have ever done wardrobe, that is such a crazy ask of a studio, especially on a lower budget film. This is one of the craziest things I read in this entire thing was in pre-production when Justin Baldoni texted the personal trainer that he was also working with. Blake Lively introduced them to get into shape for the character. He asked how much Blake Lively weighed because they had a lift scene together, and then when he went over to Blake and Ryan's house, Ryan was there and he completely freaked out on Justin. This is before cameras even rolled, saying, "How dare you fucking ask about my wife's weight? What's wrong with you?" The confrontation from Reynolds and Lively was so aggressive. So from Reynolds and Lively, it was so aggressive that Justin Baldoni felt he had no choice but to offer repeated and completely unwarranted apologies for what was a good faith and reasonable question to ask his trainer. Reynolds demanded Baldoni remove the scene entirely. Ryan Reynolds isn't part of this production, so how are you making freaking demands? Number one, I can't even stand it. Oh my God, this makes me so angry. Lively refused to perform the lift scene in the end. How are you refusing to shoot scenes in a script that you're cast in? What is your husband doing? Like, do you see how absolutely ridiculous this sounds, that they think that they had so much power that they were able, and they eventually did, was able to change the script like so crazy. Ryan Reynolds demanded Baldoni remove the scene entirely. Lively refused to perform the lift scene in the end, even after it was rehearsed with a stunt double. In her own complaint, Lively flat out lies about the absence of this scene by claiming the scene wasn't in the film. The only reason the scene wasn't in the film is because Lively and Reynolds ensured it was taken out of the film. And they actually have the script where the scene was in the script. And that's another lie that she's told, is that there was no lift scene. Babes, it's literally in the freaking script. And you and your husband forced it out, even after they spent time rehearsing it. Lies, lies, lies. There's also text messages where Blake Lively in pre-production is going to Justin Baldoni asking to change scenes around because she was so insecure about her body weight. Lively had earlier expressed insecurity about her postpartum figure, and Baldoni made every attempt to genuinely reassure her. In this exchange, he stated as her director that anything you feel insecure about, we will talk through and get creative together and make you comfortable. I just don't want you to stress about your body. It's the last thing you need. When he later tried to do just that, Lively responded with allegations of sexual harassment followed by a lawsuit. And there's text messages of this. So what is he doing? He's reassuring you and he's coddling you and he's trying to make you feel good, or he's fat shaming you and insulting you every chance he gets. Oh my gosh. Lively was so close and comfortable with Baldoni that she freely breastfed in front of him during meetings. She took photos of him holding and soothing her crying baby in her penthouse. They laughed deliriously during late night writing sessions. All of these events took place after the alleged sexual harassment. Interesting. Lively's accusations seemed to come out of the blue. Yeah, because who does this after being repeatedly sexually harassed and trapped? Lively herself set the tone for personal discussions on set, including what language was acceptable. For example, on one occasion while filming a restaurant scene, Lively sat on the floor in painfully expensive shoes while discussing with a group of male cast and crew how sexy her shoes were. Lively had no issue using the word sexy herself, but apparently took note both times Baldoni said the word in her presence. This is evidenced in film footage captured between scene takes. So she's okay sitting around a group of men on set throwing the word sexy around and wanting them to think how sexy her shoes are. But when Justin Baldoni says, yeah, the onesie's sexy, that's a freaking problem. Ew. And I could go on and on and on, but the last thing I want to talk about, and probably the most insulting to me at my core, is the way she uses Justin being a survivor and a victim against him. And to me, this is probably the grossest one as a survivor, but also you're trying to be a victim. You're trying to weaponize real people's pain. You're trying to weaponize sexual harassment. You're trying to weaponize repeated sexual harassment, violations, being trapped, all of this stuff. But then you use Justin Baldoni's real life trauma against him in your first CRD complaint. During a car ride with Miss Lively, her assistant and driver, Mr. Baldoni claimed to Miss Lively that he had been sexually abused by a former girlfriend, which he has since shared publicly. At the end of this story, Mr. Baldoni shared that it had caused him to re-examine his past. He then said, "Did I always ask for consent? No. Did I always listen when they said no? No." Mr. Baldoni claimed this was an example of how we all have things from which we can learn and grow. Miss Lively was unsettled by Mr. Baldoni's suggestion that he had engaged in sexual conduct without consent. That's what you took from the story, babes? Like, I'm just so shocked. Like, when I reread it over the weekend, I was just like, oh, okay, this is what we're doing. I mean, I can keep going and going, but that's what I found really strange. The way she's kind of like obsessed with Natasha Heath, it seems like. She brought her up in the CRD complaint. She wants all of her birthing videos. It just seems a little bit weird. She accused her husband because of looking her in the eye, made her feel uncomfortable. A man looking you in your eye made you feel uncomfortable when he could have been looking anywhere else? Interesting. I think, I don't know. Maybe it could be a little bit of racism by the, plantation Barbie herself. It's definitely a lot of jealousy, but I think truly the shot that they were trying to get was that skin to skin first baby moment. And Blake Lively completely mischaracterizes it as simulated nude. I mean, give me a break. But something is going on with these wives, and I think that she has a lot of bitterness, rage, jealousy towards them. Now, a lot of people have sent me a lot of things over the weekend. I have so many dives I'm going into. I can't wait to share them with you. I'm going to do a lot of research in the next couple of days and have the videos for you, but that's everything for today. There is just a lot going on, and I know we're all waiting for the 12th, because by the 12th, we should get some movement. This is going to be a very, very crazy week, so please join me. I am going to be here every day, if not multiple times a day, to fill you in on everything that's been going on. In the next video, I am going to be talking about Jed Wallace's depositions. It'll be kind of short and sweet, as well as we should be getting a reply back today from the sanctions asked from Blake Lively to Melissa Nathan on redactions. Anyway, there's a lot happening, so please tune in, subscribe, hit that button, and I'll see you soon. I hope you're having a great day. I love you so much, and I'll be back. I'll talk to you later. Bye.